Well, hello and welcome to the video. If you're here, you're probably wanting to learn more about what continuous AI is. And so today's talk is going to focus on exactly that. It's also going to focus on how that fits into your workflows as a software engineer. And finally, we're going to see some examples of continuous AI in action and just a little bit of what is possible. So continuous AI was termed by GitHub Next, which is GitHub's research organization. Basically, that is their organization and team of researchers looking to see what does the future of software engineer actually look like. And a lot of their focus lately has been continuous AI and agentic workflows. Agentic workflows are going to be a separate talk. Really, that is GitHub's experimental implementation of continuous AI. But today's topic is just going to be a little more abstract into what is continuous AI. And if you've ever used or built CI/CD pipelines, continuous AI is actually going to be really easy to understand. So the important thing to note is that it is taking AI and AI agents and putting them into traditional workflows. So you can actually see here, they define it as all uses of automated AI to support software collaboration on any platform. And then in addition, they go into a little more detail here. You can see continuous AI aligns with continuous integration and continuous deployment. We're going to see some examples just to make it a little clearer, but really what you're going to end up seeing is that traditionally how we interact with AI and AI coding tools is we are prompting it. It is not just autonomously running based on a trigger. So you can see here, if I jump into VS Code, typically if I'm going to interact with a coding tool, you're going to see it either in the chat pane here, if you use a terminal-based agent in the terminal, but either way, you're going to be typing a prompt. See here, we'll type something in, we're going to click enter, and we're going to have a conversation with the agent. Now, even here, we can actually type a prompt in and execute it in parallel using a background agent. And that still requires us to actually put the initial conversation in, but that's getting a little closer to continuous AI. So that AI just continually runs without us. The issue there is we're still the trigger. So how do we become not the trigger? So how do we actually cause AI to execute without a human directly going and doing something? And that's what continuous AI seeks to solve. So what I have here is a few separate implementations of continuous AI. First off, I've built a completely custom implementation. Second, we also have some implementation using GitHub agentic workflows, which is going to be the topic, a deep dive in a separate talk, or actually series of talks potentially. But today we're just going to keep it high level and stick to the demos and not actually how you would go build with agentic workflows. But starting out, the custom built one is right here. And here's what it's doing. We have a planner agent, and that planner agent giving an issue, it's going to be given some prompt. It is going to create a plan. Now that plan is then given to the implementation agent, which is then going to actually go implement the plan. So actually write the code to solve whatever the plan is asking for. Then it heads to a reviewer agent. Pretty simple. Is the implementation agent actually done its job? Is everything working? Does it meet the plan's expectations? If not, we send it back, head over to the implementation agent, and just continue that until the reviewer passes it, and then the workflow is going to conclude. Now that's a custom implementation, and really it ends up just being a Python script wrapped in a GitHub action, which then gets called in a separate GitHub action. So basically, we are just wrapping a program that has an agentic workflow directly within a pipeline. We're going to see that in action. So to see that, we're going to actually go to here where it's implemented. And here, all this does is when we go open an issue, we're going to be able to get that to run. So you can see here, this is just a portfolio site I've quickly threw together. And one thing it's potentially missing is an About Me page, or really about where I want to tell about myself. So I'm going to say, can you add slash update? Because I don't remember if I actually added an About Me page already. Please make sure the project has an up-to-date page. And if you ever use CI/CD pipelines or are deep into the DevOps world, you know that when you open these issues, you can actually get it to trigger, and that's what's happening in this case. So the action of opening a GitHub issue is triggering a pipeline, and within that pipeline, we have agentic AI that is running to complete a task. In this case, it is taking this, building a plan, and then implementing the plan with an optional review step that may fail the implementer and it may have to go back. So that's what that's doing. And what we're actually going to see if I jump over to GitHub Actions, you're going to see we have a few things running because I have a few different agents that run. But this is the important one here. And this is our workflow that we're talking about today. If we jump into here, you're going to actually see that the planning agent has now kicked off. So I have typed nothing to the agent itself. I've just opened an issue and it's taking the text in that issue. That issue could be any different trigger, right? Any trigger that could execute a pipeline. So opening a pull request is really common when a pull request merges. If a comment is typed, really any trigger that is available to a pipeline can execute this and get an agent to run. You can see the planner's working and it's going to take a little bit, right? We have multiple agents that are running and working together. So that's going to take a bit for it to run. And I want to talk about a different example as that runs because that's not the only example we can run, right? There are a lot of different things we can do. Even in agentic workflows, I have a separate agentic workflow running to help me implement some features. But one really easy thing is this is all so far talked about implementing features. What if we just wanted something a little simpler, either triaging or just a daily report? You can see right here that there is a separate workflow that runs once a day using a continuous AI strategy. Basically, it runs once a day using an agent to investigate the repository and give any updates. You're going to see I'm going to jump into here. It's going to say, what's the daily status of my portfolio? So you can think I can roll into work, get a status, and see what's going on and what I might need to work on, right? So what's been built, you can see here. From there, actually, too, you can see here, it tells me I have an About Us section, so we'll be updating and not creating a new one. What's the design system? What's the infrastructure? What are the next things that need to happen, right? So there's a PR open, but it's not closed, so maybe I should go and fix that. Otherwise, there's some housekeeping steps. Really, we can set it to be whatever we want, but this runs once a day without me doing anything. So then continuous AI, it runs without me doing anything. I cannot touch this repository for a week, and there's going to be 7 new things because it's once per day. Now, another cool thing we can do is, which I don't have set up here, but it's issue triaging. Actually, I may have that set up. Either way, let's say I have a new issue that's a bug, right? Something on my page is not working. A lot of times, bugs are a 1 to 2 line fix, but the actual investigation of where it's caused could be an hour plus, right? So, how would we actually save a developer a lot of time doing that? And the answer again here is continuous AI. So, when a new bug is opened as an issue in the repository, what we can do is have a agent go and triage that bug and then come back with the potential solution as well as the where the bug most likely occurs. If it also has a high confidence that that bug is easily solvable and it's going to be within the scope of what it can do, it can go implement that and open a pull request I can then review and complete, which basically saves me almost all the time actually going and fixing that bug. So that's just one example of where continuous AI can actually be super useful in what you're already doing, right? We all have to fix bugs when we go build software. This is just an way where even in the worst case, it's going to go investigate and see what potentially could be the issue and at least give you somewhere to start. So instant time savings, even if it doesn't go actually implement the solution. So that's really cool. Another thing I want to talk about is the second full workflow I've built. And if we jump into here, this is going to be using GitHub's agentic workflows, which is going to be the topic of a separate talk. But you can see here, what this workflow is going to do is it's going to do a plan. So when I type in a comment /build, it's going to trigger off this continuous AI workflow. And this first part of it is a planning agent. It does the exact same thing as the earlier planning agent we talked about, just built out a plan, basically a checklist of what needs to be done to solve a specific issue. But the difference here is this workflow is now more prototyping related. So what it's actually going to do is it's going to take the plan, send it off to 3 different implementation agents, and each of those implementation agents are going to open a pull request. And so a developer can come in and say, hey, I opened this as a feature and wanted to build it. So we're going to actually jump into that here. You can see here I currently have a bug where there's a potential infinite loop, which we want to get solved, right? You can actually see where the infinite loop ends up being if we jump into the actual code for it, which is right here. In the workflow, we have an edge that goes implementer sends the step over to the reviewer, and then the reviewer can send it over to the implementer. And inside here, what you don't see is there is a breakout case, which is basically if the reviewer says it's complete, we're going to break out and end the workflow. But the thing about the breakout case is it's literally a string match. So if the plan's output does not contain implementation incomplete, then we break out, otherwise we continue. And if the reviewer agent is really unhappy, this could just continuously loop and burn up tokens, right? Which is not what we want. We don't want to wake up with a $100 bill plus. So how we're going to fix that is we have a bug here. This is all I typed in. I didn't type this. This was actually the agent. So that plan agent, in addition to sending the plan to those three different implementation agents, it also just updates the issue here. So I wrote this, and then the agent actually wrote all of this just for some work I'm tracking to see what that plan looks like. And you can see here to actually trigger that agent, all I did is slash build. It can be any trigger. I could even just have it when the issue opens, but just know that's how I did it here. And what we're going to end up seeing now is on my pull request tab, I have 3 open pull requests. I triggered this about half an hour ago, so you can see these are from 30 minutes ago. And these are the 3 different agents that ran. So if I jump into my Claude agent, and the Claude agent, if we jump down, you might not be able to see it here, but it's using one of the Anthropic models. You can see it's given me an implementation plan. It's giving me a whole summary of it. That's not really important right now. What I really want to look at is the files changed. So what actually changed? You can see here, we've done a max iteration count. It set some print statements, and you can see it's added a bunch of other stuff to get that running. Really, the important thing I want to look at here to show you the difference is this is 42 lines added and 9 lines removed. So that's one potential prototype for it. A second prototype is with my Codex agent, and you're going to be able to see here, we're now at 58 lines added, 8 lines deleted. So it is a different solution. And then if we go to the Copilot agent, we should see the exact same thing, right? Plus 40 minus 3. So each of these has a fully separate implementation. In this case, without actually looking at it, I might want to take the Copilot agent because it's the shortest amount of changes, which means it's going to be a little more concise, but I want to make sure it actually works for what I'm doing. You can see here, we have to set our max iterations potentially. So that's actually default 5, but we also have that option. So that's really important because what it's saying is I've now, by typing literally slash build in this, you can see down here, all I did is type slash build. I've been able to take my issue and now have 3 prototypes as a developer I can look at and see if any of these are what I want and then build off that prototype. So that's a way that's going to save me time because it's doing 2 things. One, it's giving me some ideas of how I might want to build it. And 2, I might just like one already and basically either automatically accept it or just make a couple tweaks. So just saving me time in integrating AI into the workflows I'm already doing and how I work using continuous AI. So that's how it's going to work. A little primer for what agentic workflows, or actually what I built custom and also kind of what agentic workflows uses under the hood is Copilot CLI. So this is GitHub Copilot CLI. It's a CLI tool here you can see. It looks very similar to Claude Code actually. So GitHub has this almost as a direct competitor to Claude Code. In addition, we have the VS Code medium and really a bunch of other IDEs and the Cloud Agent. But this one is built because now we have a fully dedicated one in the terminal, and that gives us access to a lot of things, right? So it's the first GitHub Copilot agent that is actually able to do autonomous workflows. Basically, you can see here we have a really nice terminal GUI, but the thing is, if you want to do it autonomously, you don't get that GUI, and you can just actually type it as a terminal command, and it's going to run. Now, that opened up the floor for Copilot SDK, and Copilot SDK is now a programmatic way to access Copilot CLI. So think of it as a programmatic abstraction layer. So instead of writing a terminal script or a PowerShell or Bash script is what it would end up being, I can programmatically call this and build out workflows. And so that was taken and looped into Microsoft Agentic Framework. And Microsoft Agentic Framework is Microsoft's approach to building out agents in agentic workflows. And really, it's just one of the many providers for agent clients is Copilot CLI, and Copilot CLI is used. And then that's what I actually built out. So you can see here, if we jump into our agents, my plan agent is a prompt, of course, but the actual agent itself is just a GitHub Copilot agent, and I'm able to orchestrate that along with my other 2 agents together using Microsoft Agent Framework workflows. So you can see that here. And all of that I then wrap up into a composite GitHub action. Really, this composite GitHub action, all it's doing is allowing me to call the Python program I wrote in a CI/CD script. So you can see here, really, if we're going to be technical, the running the workflow in our script is quite literally the Python command to run it. Might not be the best here for production. There may be some other updates, but this is just a demo. So you can see there, really simply, we've been able to implement continuous AI into the work we're already doing to get some instant improvements to how we work and how to get some efficiencies. And what I want to do is now jump over here And you can see here, all of these. I wanted to just jump into the Actions tab, and what you're going to be able to see is we can add an About Me page that is ran. See, run, commit and push changes to a new branch. If I jump into the code, we're going to jump over here, and you can see a new branch popped up right here, issue 42. And this could just be opened as a new pull request. I just haven't included that yet. But you can see here, we have this new issue based on issue 42. If we jump into our issues, issue 42 is that can you add or update an About Me page? And what I'm going to do, since I don't have it automatically creating a pull request, is I'm going to just create it right now. And what we're going to be able to see is our agent went out and actually implemented those changes. So we're going to jump here, and you can see here it's changed all those lines. I'd have to go review it. A lot of this is just markdown text at this point. It includes the plan. Reason agent temp is basically storing the artifacts between agents. Once again, it's a demo. You may not want to do that in production. But the important part here is actually the About Us page changing. So you can see we've actually updated it and added a lot more information. I'd have to go check and see if all that was accurate because it's a portfolio site. But in just a few minutes, you've really seen a few different ways we can continuously have AI running into what we do without us have to specifically prompt it, right? Because I can always use the GitHub Copilot in the CLI or the IDE to write code. Alternatively, GitHub also has a cloud agent where if I jump into Agents HQ here, you're going to see I can give Copilot a prompt and it's going to have a session run and complete a task. Basically, it ends up opening a pull request and then I can look at that pull request and merge based on what I asked. But that's not continuous AI. Continuous AI is when AI is executing in our normal flow of work without us explicitly having to say, hey, AI, go do this, right? We're not having to prompt anything. You can see with my slash command, I did slash build. That's still somewhat manual, but you can see it's more in the context of CI/CD, and that command is just doing a trigger. Alternatively, we also saw directly when an issue is opened, continuous AI runs. And then the final thing is on a cron schedule, in this case, once a day, we have AI run through our code base and our changes and say what's going on in the repository so we can wake up and just see what is new and what we might need to work on today. So that's all about continuous AI. Nothing we talked about today is how do we actually go build this. It ends up being really simple. I can attach this multi-agentic workflow repository in the description, and you'll see just how simple it is to build some of these workflows out. And in addition, in follow-up videos, we're going to actually dive deeper into Microsoft, or not Microsoft agentic workflows, but GitHub agentic workflows and how those are built and how that makes it a lot easier to build these agentic workflows. So it's going to take us from writing a program, if we did it custom, and having to convert that into some pipeline and making it so we can quite literally define continuous AI in a simple markdown file. So if we jump over to our plan agent here, you're going to see if I jump into the actual code, because that gives you a little preview, I added some front matter, which is when it executes, what permissions it has, what can it output. And then I just said, here's my prompt. This is my agent itself. This is the instructions for the agent and what I want it to do. And this was everything I needed to go do the plan agent. If we jump back into, we'll just jump into one of these, but all three are almost the exact same, minus the model being a bit different. But you can see here, we did almost the exact same thing, and the safe output is just create that pull request, and then we gave it a prompt, and literally this times the other two implementation agents that look the same is everything needed to go build out that continuous AI. So agentic workflows makes life a lot easier in actually implementing continuous AI. If you like the video, please stay tuned for more. Agentic workflows are really cool. They're still experimental, but there is a lot of updates happening to them, and it's becoming very popular at a lot of companies to actually start working with continuous AI and see how it can help accelerate the work you're already doing.